brought by the state of New York, charging the defendants Cortez and La Maliche conspiracy. In addition, the state is charging Cortez with kidnapping and first-degree murder. The state claims that La Maliche and Cortez conspired to murder Panama and two other Mexican lords. It will be your duty to decide whether or not Cortez and La Maliche are guilty of the crimes they are charged with. It is important that you decide the case based on what the evidence shows. It will be wrong to decide the case because you like some lawyers or some witnesses. You must decide what really happened. It is my duty as the judge to instruct you on the law in this case. Definition of the law of conspiracy. A criminal conspiracy exists when two or more people agree to commit almost any unlawful act and take some action toward its completion. The action taken need not itself be a crime, but it must indicate that those involved in the conspiracy knew of the plan and intended to break the law. One person may be charged with a convicted or bold conspiracy, and the underlying crime based on the same circumstances. Kidnapping, the crime of unlawfully seizing and carrying away a person by force or fraud, or seizing, detaining a person against his or her will, with an intent to carry that person away at a later time. First-degree murder or less or charge included. A murder that is committed with premeditation or during the course of a serious felony, such as kidnapping, or that otherwise requires the most serious punishment under the law. We will now begin the case. The attorneys for the government, who are called prosecuting attorneys, will go first.
So, prosecuting attorneys, let's hear your opening statement.
Cortez is guilty of murder and kidnapping because he was holding Aztecs against their will, and he found that they were planning something against him, so he killed these men, and killed them and tortured and killed them, and these men were innocent because they made no move against Cortez, but he still killed them. And in X's testimony, it says that Cortez killed 3 kings and 8 other fathers. This is 11 men that he killed.
Thank you. The defense?
You see, our clients could not have killed these people. As you may know, the Aztecs were cannibals. Our clients were running scared because they thought the Aztecs were going to invade them. I'm not saying blood was not spread between the two groups, but not by my clients, Cortez or La Maliche. It was by the conquistadors, if anything. We should put the conquistadors on trial, not these innocent people.
Thank you. Judge, would you please ask the prosecuting team to call their first witness?
Yes, prosecuting team, you may call your first witness.
Lopez de Guimara. Please recite from what you remember that night of the murder.
Well, what I heard was that Cortez, he and 200 men went and took Cuauhtémoc and a few other lords with him, and then they were planning to go to Honduras, I think, yes. And so Cuauhtémoc and the lords planned to send most of their army to go defeat and get revenge on Cortez. Because Cortez's group was weak, they were sick and ill, and they only had 200 men and 50 horses, and they weren't going to make it that far. Well, a spy overheard this, and he told Cortez. And so Cortez did one of the oldest tricks in the book. He brought them one by one into a room and said that every other person confessed to doing this. And so you don't really have a choice. So all of them confessed, and so he decided that they were going to be hanged in Lent 1525. So he killed all of them by hanging them, and he tortured Cuauhtemoc by putting oil on his feet and exposing his feet to the fire for trying to figuring out where Montezuma's treasure was. But Cuauhtemoc never told Cortez where his treasure was, and that's and he's very famous for that.
You do believe that Cortez has committed first-degree murder.
I do believe Cortez has committed first-degree murder.
Do you also believe that he committed kidnapping?
Yes.
Do you believe that he also conspired with La Malinche?
Yes.
What is one way that you think that he planned to do this?
Well, one way I think he planned to do this was Cuauhtemoc was Montezuma's cousin, so I think he was first going to already plan to torture him to figure out where the treasure was, and if he didn't, then he would kill them. But if he did, he would still kill him.
It says here that Cortez, that from your information, Cortez saw a picture translated by another person that made him believe that the kings were guilty. Do you think that that's one of the reasons that makes you believe?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
It says here that you think that Cortez saw a picture that was translated from another person that made him believe that the Aztec kings were guilty.
Oh, well, he never actually read this picture because he couldn't read the glyphs, but he did believe the spy.
Do you think that the spy might have been lying?
I do think the spy might have been lying.
Judge, would you like to ask the defense team if they would like to cross-examine the witness?
Defense team, would you like to cross-examine the witness? Yes.
Okay, Lopez. How do you know about all this?
Oh, well, I heard this from an employee, a good friend of mine, where I worked at Cortez's household.
How do you know all this information is true?
I do not know all this information is true, but there is one witness here that has seen all these events. So, if his story does have the same, path, I guess, as mine, then my story is probably correct.
Do you think he was scared? He was scared of all his men dying, and because he heard the plot and he stopped them from murdering his men?
I do not think that was what happened. I think he was already planning to kill them.
What makes you think that?
Well, like I said, I think he was already planning to kill them because he was a conqueror. He conquered a lot of places before, and so he planned to take them and torture him to find Montezuma's treasure and then kill him either way.
I object. I object to her statement where she clearly said he had done many conquerings before.
He has.
On what grounds, sir? What are you objecting to?
I'm objecting to her statement when she said that he had conquered many places before.
Do you want to allow it or overrule it? Do you think that that's pertinent evidence? Do you think that that should be a statement that's allowed to be said?
It should be allowed to be said.
If you think he is a murderer, why do you work for him?
I did not choose to work for him.
Please explain.
I did not choose. Not everybody gets the choice to work wherever they want.
You said that but you clearly said that you had a different work. So if you were working for him, then how could you have heard this from a place at your work?
like I said before, I do not know if it's true, but if it has the same path as every other witness, then this is probably true.
Yes, but you said that you were working for Cortez by choice, but now you're not working for Cortez.
I never said I was working for him by choice.
Only one person is
Yeah.
questioning the witness.
How could your employee have told you if you choose to work if you didn't choose to work for him, then you wouldn't have some person who went on a place with him and came back to you to tell you the information about it.
Well, this information could have been passed down by people. Like, there's a witness here who is a good friend of Cortez, who probably has been to his household, who probably has shared this story, and someone who probably overheard this, then told this story to all the other employers, and then that came to me.
But if you're not allowed to, but if you can't, you don't want to work for him, and since you're not doing it by choice, he would have probably not let anybody else come to talk to you.
Talk to me? Well, while I'm working there, I could talk to people. It's not like I can't speak to anybody.
If you're done, Daniel, that's okay.
Do you think La Malinche should be tried because all she did was just repeat what the people said in there?
I think she should be tried because I do think she committed the crime of conspiracy, so I think she should go into 10 years of jail.
Jury. Well, how come you think this? Because what do you think she did to plan it? Because all she did was, she's a worker, and all she did was repeat what they said. She's a spy. She wasn't planning.
Objection. She never said that she was a spy.
Yeah. Yes.
Judge?
All she said was that she was a close friend. So I wouldn't really think that you should continue this false information.
Okay. So he may not continue with this line of reasoning.
Yes. Well, I mean, still, she should be tried because she was his lover and for his son. She should, I think Cortez would be able to trust La Malinche and this plan to kill the Aztecs.
How come you think you weren't allowed to talk to other people during your work?
I never said I wasn't allowed to. You told me that I wasn't allowed to, but I was always allowed to.
Are you done with this witness?
But what if La Malinche didn't do any involvement in it in the sense of Cortez? Do you think Cortez just wasn't planning killing them on the ship? Does that mean because he only killed them because they were planning against him? And was he planning to do them at the exact moment?
Still, he took some sort of action to killing them, and I think he was planning to kill them, even though he didn't plan to kill them on the exact date. He still had this plan to kill Cuauhtémoc. And he did it, but not at the exact time, so still that would be counted as conspiracy because he planned this and
he didn't plan it at that time. So he did this without planning it.
He did plan it. That's what I believe. You can believe he doesn't, but that's what I believe.
Yeah, but what if he only did it because he heard that they were planning against him and did that exact point?
I already answered this question. I do not believe that. I believe that he took them when he was leaving and already planned to kill them and torture them. So when he heard this, he just had a better reason to kill them and torture them.
Judge, I would make him go along with his line of reasoning or sit down because he's asking the same questions now and she's answered them.
Will you please? Now you can call your next witness.
The prosecution calls Bernal Diaz.
Please recite what you remember from the night of the
Well, I was in the army with Cortez, and I heard
Cuauhtémoc.
Cuauhtémoc and the Mexican chiefs talking about starting up an army and killing everybody in the army because they were weak from suffering from hunger.
Did the men with Cortez have a choice to be there?
Yes, I think so.
Did he hold the men against their will?
No, I think they chose to be there.
Which men?
The Lord.
Did he hold the Mexica lords against their will?
Oh, yes.
And same with the first person. Did the Mexican Lords with Cortez have a choice to be there?
Yes, I think so.
So she's asking you two separate questions. Did the Mexica lords have a choice in being involved in this march, and were they held against their will?
Well, I think they were, but I'm not sure. It didn't really say.
Did Cuauhtémoc and the other lords make any action to harm anyone?
No.
Did Cortez kill them?
Yes.
Was Cortez planning Cuauhtémoc's murder?
Yes.
Do you think that Cortez is guilty of first degree murder?
Yes.
Defense attorneys, would you like to?
Yes, please.
Okay. In your testimony, in your background that I saw, it says that you were involved with the Aztecs, had their friendship. Is this true?
Yes, it is.
Does that mean that you were working against Cortez this whole time?
No, we just struck up a friendship.
Okay. Jerry? Bernal Diaz is part of a one-man conspiracy to get Fernando into a
He can talk to the jury.
Hernando a guilty verdict to get back at Hernando for killing the Aztecs, his friends, the people he had a friendship with. He also created a forged background to make it look like he saw it, although he did not.
Objection. How would you know it?
Were you there? And when they went to the lords, when they went in the Lord's hanging?
No, I don't know. I was not there.
Do you rest?
Yes.
Okay. The witness may be seated. Prosecuting team.
Prosecuting team, would you like to call up your last witness?
No.
Their witness.
You probably want to call X to the
I'll
stand.
call up X.
All right.
Daniel, this is your witness. You may begin by asking what he remembers from that evening.
What were you doing during that time?
I am a man from Texcoco, and I have worked for Cortez in the past, and I was celebrating Mardi Gras.
Do you know anything about what happened with the three lords?
We did. We got killed. We got hung.
Do you think
Cortez to be guilty of murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy?
Yes, he's evil.
Why do you think he's evil?
Because I think his actions were unfair and unjust. There was Prosecuting team, would you like to,
X. You may be cross-examined.
would you like to cross-examine X?
Yes. Daniel just mentioned that you believe that he is guilty of all charges.
Yep.
Do you think that Cortez thought that if Cuauhtémoc was killed, that all lords would fall in his wake?
Yes.
Get back.
The defense rests. X, you may leave. Thank you. We have two more witnesses. These are the key witnesses. Who would like to call up La Malinche? Okay. The defense may go first.
Malinche, please state your name.
Indeed.
Please state your name.
I am Mama Lisa
Okay. Please recite what you know.
from said night.
Yes.
On said night, I simply overheard the Mexican lord Cuauhtémoc speaking with his friends and telling bitter jokes about Cortez. Although some may think that they were simply joking, I believe they meant every word. I knew they already had history of leading taking back power, and this expedition was their chance.
Okay. Why do you think? Yeah.
Prosecuting team, would you like to
Cross.
cross-examine witness?
Yes. How do you know that? What past history do they have of taking back power?
I really don't know, but I've heard quite much talk from his friends speaking of taking back power.
Okay. Good.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you the rest.
Here. Did you have a follow-up, Aaron?
Go ahead with the question.
For La Malinche?
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'll honor that since there was only one question.
What evidence do you have to believe that the lords weren't joking? And they had quite seriousness in their tone. I'm gonna tell you the rest. Would you like to call up the next witness?
Final witness.
Yes, please. We will call up Hernando Cortez. Please stand. Please recite what you were doing on that night.
Well, on the 12th of October, 1524, I was leaving for Honduras. I said goodbye to my son Merton, who I cared for and loved, and I headed off. While I was settling in, La Malinche comes in and says that Cuauhtémoc was and some of his friends were plotting a death for me. They were plotting this because so they could regain power. I simply got scared and yeah.
Did any kidnapping take place during your stay at the Mexica's place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cross exam.
You never say that. You never said that La Malinche told you that they were plotting against you. You said that Cristobal had.
I said that.
No, I object. The spy told Lama Linche. Lama Linche was his translator.
Well,
Where are you going with that line of reasoning?
it never says anything about La Malinche in Hernan Cortez's testimony.
We're done with the principal witness?
Yeah.
Okay. Judge, would you like to allow for closing arguments?
Anybody with closing argument?
Aaron, come around here, please.
To show that Cortez had no reason to sentence the lords to death is they made no action towards hurting him. All they had done when he questioned them was admit that they had said what was overheard. Yet Hernan Cortez is still killed them, sentenced them to death, and La Malinche was in conspiracy with them because La Malinche is the one that overheard the lords talking, and in the testimony it said that in the testimony right here it said exactly, I knew Cortez would be angry and maybe even overreact, so La Malinche must have known that Cortez was going to do something to those lords, which he did.
Where's your line of reasoning with that?
That's our closing argument. We can't cross-examine the prosecuting team. But you are allowed to have your closing argument at this point.
Okay. These three witnesses believe that Cortez killing the Aztecs was wrong and unnecessary. Well, here's a few facts that may prove you wrong. Well, that may prove them wrong. First of all, let's not forget that they were cannibal savages who killed their own men. If we hadn't killed them, they would have killed us.
I object.
No, not during a closing argument.
If you go back to the testimonies, there is no piece of evidence that says anything about kidnapping. And Cortez never even wanted to kill the Aztecs. He had orders to. Plus, La Malinche didn't even take anything towards the actual killing, so she should be out of the picture.
Judge, will you allow one final word from our star witness?
Yes.
Can I go?
Yes.
I would like to counteract the statement of which I knew that he would kill.
I've never said that.
You said I knew he would overreact, which you did say in your testimony. But overreaction does not may include physical violence, but not necessarily murder.
I did not say that you knew he would murder. I said that you knew he would overreact and do something.
I object. I agree with Lamaliche. It does not mean that she would have been murdered. I mean that they would have been murdered because of the fact that if Cuauhtemoc, I'm sorry, Cortez. If Cortez had overreacted, then usually that would mean that they would it may include physical violence, but it would not include murder. That would be outrage.
Objection. As I just said before, I never said that she knew he would murder them. I said that she knew he would overreact, and as she just said, probably cause physical violence, which can't do. It's a crime.
Well, slapping somebody.
That's the last word that this court will allow. The jury now has 5 minutes to deliberate on all charges.
Order in the court. Please be seated. The jury has decided, and I am ready to read the verdict. Cortez is guilty and should be imprisoned for life. For all three crimes.
Hey, you never said Lamaliche.
Lamaliche, conspiracy for 7 years.